Ethan Wade never expected to meet an alien princess. He was just an assistant in the Earth Diplomatic Corps. His job mostly involved carrying data pads, bringing coffee to real ambassadors, and nodding politely during boring meetings. But that changed on the day the Varnock Empire came to Earth. The Varnock were one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy. Tall, elegant, and famous for their strange glowing eyes, they were known to be very serious and formal. Earth wanted peace with them, a trade agreement, a friendship, maybe even an alliance. So, when Princess Zelari, the niece of the Varnock Emperor, arrived to represent her people, everyone was nervous. The president of Earth himself greeted her at the spaceport. Soldiers stood in straight lines. Scientists and translators checked every word twice before speaking, and Ethan, he was told to escort the princess from her landing ship to the Earth. Hall of Diplomacy. He stood in the hallway, watching the tall silver doors open. A soft humming sound came from the Varnock ship as it landed.
Guards in armor stepped out first, their silver cloaks brushing the floor.
Then, between them, walked the princess. Zelari was tall, at least a head taller than Ethan. Her skin had a soft violet glow. Her hair shimmered like moonlight. She wore a flowing robe with silver threads, and a small crown floated above her head. She looked like someone from a dream. Ethan quickly straightened his back and tried to look professional. He held his datapad tightly. His hands were sweating. She stopped in front of him, calm and quiet. "Greetings," she said in a soft, formal voice. "I am Princess Zelari of the Varnock royal bloodline. Hope your planet is prepared." Ethan blinked. Her translator device turned her alien words into perfect English. But still, she sounded like a queen from a storybook. He didn't know what to say. So, without thinking, he smiled and replied, "You okay, sweetie?" Silence. Dead silence. Zelari stared at him. Her guard stepped forward. One of the Earth. Officers gasped. Ethan realized what he had just said. "Oh no," he muttered. I didn't mean it just came out. I was joking, not disrespect, I promise." Then something strange happened. Princess Zelari tilted her head. Her glowing eyes blinked once, and then she smiled. "I am quite well, darling," she said. The translator repeated the words out loud. Everyone in the room heard it, and then dashed laughter. It started with Ethan, a short, nervous chuckle. But Zelari joined in, her laugh soft and musical, like wind chimes. The guards looked confused. The diplomats looked shocked. But Ethan and the princess, they just laughed. After that strange beginning, things moved fast. The story of Sweetie and Darling spread through the Earth and Varnock diplomatic teams. News reporters talked about it. Some people called it the laugh heard across the stars. Others said it was the first time a Varnock royal had ever laughed in public. But while the world laughed, Ethan got into trouble. His boss, Director Meller, pulled him aside. "You can't call an alien princess, sweetie," shouted. "This is a serious mission, Wade. It's one wrong word and we could start a war." "I know," Ethan said. "It just slipped out," but she laughed. "That's not the point, actually," came a new voice. "It is." Everyone turned. Princess Zelari had entered the room quietly. Her guards stood behind her, silent and glowing. "I would like Ethan Wade to be assigned as my assistant while I am on Earth," she said calmly. Director Meller looked like he might faint. "Your Highness, are you sure?" Zelari nodded. "He is... ... Interesting." Ethan didn't know whether to feel proud or terrified. For the next few days, Ethan worked closely with Princess Zelari. He gave her tours of Earth's diplomatic buildings, introduced her to human food, and answered her many questions. She was curious about everything. "Why do your people wear different clothing every day?" she asked. "Because we get bored." "Icily?" Ethan said. "Strange," she replied. "We simply upgrade the thread colors once a season." Every time she said something serious, Ethan made a small joke. And every time, she responded with a clever comeback. One morning, he handed her a cup of earth tea. "Careful your sparkliness," he said. "It's hot." She raised an eyebrow. "Thank you, peasant." They both laughed. Even though she was a royal, Zalari seemed to enjoy speaking casually with him. Sometimes they sat together in the gardens behind the diplomacy building, watching birds and clouds. "I never knew humans were so light-hearted," she said once. Well, Ethan replied, "If we don't laugh, we cry." Zalari nodded. "Slowly, I think. I understand that." But not everyone liked their growing friendship. High Chancellor Threx, the princess's uncle and her closest advisor, was not pleased. He was a tall, cold Varnak with deep red eyes and sharp features. He often stared at Ethan like he was an insect. "You are too familiar," he told Ethan one evening. "The princess is royalty. You are nothing." "I'm her assistant," Ethan replied. "You are a joke." Ethan said nothing, but inside, he felt angry. Later that night, as he sat near the fountain in the garden, Zalari came to him. "My uncle spoke to you, didn't he?" she asked. "Yeah, he's not a fan. He is old and afraid, but I am not." Ethan looked at her. "Why me?" She smiled. "Because you make me laugh, and because when you look at me, you do not see a crown. You see me?" Ethan felt his face grow warm. Before he could reply, a sharp alarm rang out from the security systems. A voice echoed, "Warning, unregistered signal detected near the guest wing." Soldiers ran toward the building. Zalari stood up quickly. "We should go," she said, but as they walked back, they passed the open sky above. Zalari stopped and looked up. "So many stars," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "Want a better view?" He led her to the top of the observatory, where Earth's telescopes pointed at the sky. She stood quietly, gazing upward. "In Varnak, the skies are purple," she said. "Here they are black, but still beautiful." Just then, more guards arrived. Captain Ryan, the human military leader in charge of security, looked furious. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Ethan raised his hands. "Just stargazing with the princess." "This is a breach of protocol." Zalari stepped forward. "I asked him to bring me." "That's not the point, Your Highness." Zalari narrowed her eyes. "Then here's the point. Ethan Wade is now under my royal protection. If you punish him, you insult me." Captain Ryan fell silent. Later, in her private quarters, Zalari and Ethan sat in quiet. "I may have made things worse for you," he said. "No," she replied. "You made things better for me." He laughed softly. "Sweetie and darling, huh?" She smiled. "Yes, two strange words. Started something unexpected." Ethan looked at her. For the first time, he saw not just an alien royal, but someone real, someone curious, someone kind. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For laughing with me." The next morning, Ethan was called to the security wing. He had barely finished his toast when a military officer showed up at his door. "You're wanted in briefing room 3, immediately." The officer said, "Did I break another law?" The officer didn't smile. "Just move." Ethan sighed and followed him. Inside the room, Captain Ryan stood with his arms crossed. Director Meller sat beside him. On the screen behind them, a report blinked red. "Possible threat detected. High risk." Princess Zalari was there too, standing calmly beside her uncle, Chancellor Threx, who looked as if he had swallowed a lemon. Ethan gave a small wave to the princess. "Morning, Your Sparkliness," raised a brow and replied coolly. "You're late, cupcake, Captain," Ryan grunted. "Enough of that. We're in a serious situation." He pressed a button, and a satellite image appeared on the screen. "A stealth drone was detected flying too close to the Varnak quarters last night. We think someone is trying to spy on or possibly harm the princess." Ethan frowned. "From our side or hers?" "We don't know," Ryan said. "And until we find out, we're increasing security." Meller looked at Ethan. "And that includes you. As the closest Earth civilian to the princess, we can't have you walking around freely. So you'll be assigned full-time to her security team for Her protection and ours. Chancellor Threx protested immediately. This is ridiculous. He is untrained, unqualified, and unworthy. Zelari stepped forward. I requested him, and I trust him. Her voice left no room for argument. Ryan sighed. Then so be it. You'll both remain in the guest wing under lockdown? No outside contact, no unapproved movement, till we finish the investigation. That's how Ethan found himself practically living with an alien princess. The Varnock guest wing was beautiful glass walls, floating furniture, soft music that responded to moods. But after one day, it started to feel like a very shiny prison. Do you always live like this? Ethan asked on the second day, tossing a small pillow into the air. Yes, Zelari replied, sipping glowing tea. It is quiet, safe, royal. It's boring, Ethan said. Agreed. They sat in silence for a while. Then she turned to him. Tell me something strange about Earth. Ethan smiled. Okay. On Earth, there are people who sing in the shower. Zelari tilted her head. For what purpose? No reason. Just joy, or heartbreak, or noise. Do you sing in the shower, Ethan Wade? Only when I'm alone? And the shampoo bottle approves. Zelari chuckled softly. You humans are so ... strange. And you aliens are so ... serious. She grinned. Not all of us. As the days passed, their friendship deepened. Zelari showed Ethan how to control the floating lights with hand gestures. He taught her how to make popcorn in the microwave. She taught him how to read the Varnock star maps. He taught her how to beat him in a card game called Zapstack. Sometimes they sat on the balcony together, watching the city lights below. I've never stayed in one place this long, Zelari said one night. Do you miss home? Ethan asked. She was quiet. Sometimes, but home is full of expectations. Here, I feel like I can breathe. Ethan looked at her glowing profile. You're not what I expected either, because I'm a princess. No, because you're real. She looked at him. Her glowing eyes softened. Then suddenly, the lights dimmed. An alert flashed across the glass walls. System check. Minor disruption detected. Ethan stood up. Another threat? Said Zelari calmly. Just a system scan. Still the guards came rushing in. Captain Ryan appeared behind them, frowning. He looked at the two sitting close together on the balcony. Everything all right here? Yes, Ethan said. Perfect, Zelari added. But Ryan didn't look happy. This arrangement is temporary. Don't forget that. As he left, Zelari sighed. Why do humans always look like they're about to shout? 'Cause we usually are, Ethan said. That night, a strange feeling settled in Ethan's chest. It wasn't just attraction, it wasn't just friendship, it was connection. As if somehow, across species and space, he and Zelari understood each other in a way no one else did. But he also knew the risks. She was royalty. He was just a nobody with a fast mouth. The next morning, he found her sitting by the fountain, fingers brushing the water. Could you ever live on Earth? He asked. Maybe, she said. But I would have to bring my people's trust with me. And if they said no, she looked at him with sad eyes. Then I would return, because I'm still their voice, he nodded. Even when you want. To be your own? Zelari gave a small smile. You ask dangerous questions, Ethan Wade? I ask real ones. Later that afternoon, something unexpected happened. One of the Earth translators ran in, holding a data tablet. Urgent message. He said, There's been an anonymous leak. Someone sent a coded message trying to stir tension between Earth and Varnock. Ethan and Zelari leaned in to read it. It was a message pretending to be from Zelari. It's calling Earth's leaders primitive and unworthy. The leak had already reached a Varnock news channel. That's fake, Zelari said. Never said those things. But the message has your signature code, the translator whispered. Chancellor Threx stormed into the room. This is what I warned about. They have used your words to trap you. We must return to Varnock at once. Ethan stepped forward. No, wait, this doesn't make sense. Why would someone do this now? Zelari stared at the screen. Because something bigger is coming. They all turned to her. What do you mean? Ethan asked. She closed her eyes. This message is not just an insult. It's bait. Someone wants us to react, to walk away, to end the talks. Ethan suddenly remembered something. He'd seen an unknown name on a file in the translator's folder. Someone had accessed her communication logs the night before. He pointed to the screen. We need to check who last accessed her data. Ryan nodded. I'll get the tech team on it. Chancellor Threx frowned. And if it leads to a human? Zalari looked straight at him. Then I will deal with it with reason, not rage. That evening, Zalari sat on the edge of the fountain, looking tired. Ethan sat beside her. You okay, sweetie? She smiled weakly. You were brave to tease royalty in times of war. He chuckled. Well, darling, someone has to keep things light. She looked at him then. Really looked. If we survive this, she said softly. What happens next? Ethan shrugged. I don't know. Maybe I return to carrying coffee. Maybe I return to giving orders. Or he said, maybe we find something better. She didn't reply, but she leaned her shoulder gently against his, in the quiet that followed. The city outside glittered. 2 people, 1 human. 1 alien sat close together, uncertain about the future, but certain about one thing. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Ethan sat in the quiet garden, staring at the fake stars on the glass ceiling. The guest wing had gone quiet, but not peaceful. Ever since the false message claiming Princess Zalari insulted Earth had been leaked, everyone was walking on eggshells. Trust was cracking. Tension was rising. He couldn't sleep. His mind kept asking one question. Who would want to ruin this peace? Footsteps broke the silence. Still awake, Cupcake? Came a soft voice. Ethan turned to see Princess Zalari walking toward him. She wore a simple silver robe, her crown missing. She looked less like a princess tonight, and more like a person. Couldn't sleep, Ethan said. Too much going on in here. He tapped his head. She sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. I couldn't sleep either. They sat in silence for a moment. I think someone wants this treaty to fail, Ethan said. Zalari nodded. Someone powerful? Someone close? You think it's your uncle? Ethan asked. She paused. He dislikes your world. He is loyal. I believe he wants peace. He just believes Earth is too weak to be a true ally. Ethan smiled faintly. Well, we're used to being underestimated. Perhaps that is your greatest strength.
Just then,
The garden lights dimmed again. No, not an alarm this time. Power-saving mode. But it reminded both of them how fragile things were. I need to know who's behind this, Zalari whispered. Ethan looked at her. Then let's find out. The next morning, Ethan snuck into the Earth translator's office. He wasn't really allowed, but he had made friends with the assistant on night shift, a young tech girl named Jo. I shouldn't be letting you in, Jo whispered. If Ryan finds out, I'll take the blame, Ethan promised. Just let me check the access logs. Jo sighed and opened the system. Ethan scanned through the logs from the night the fake message was leaked. There, he said, pointing. That file shouldn't have been accessed. Timestamp showed 2:11. Who was logged in at that time? Jo typed quickly. A name popped up. Envoy Duran. Who's that? Ethan asked. Jo shrugged. One of the Varnick advisors. He came with the princess, but he doesn't speak much. Ethan remembered him now. Tall, pale, and always in the background. He never smiled. Always watching. Can you print me this record? Ethan asked. Jo nodded and handed him a small data chip. Thanks, he said. Be careful. She warned, back in the garden. Ethan gave the chip to Zalari. Her eyes scanned the information, and her expression turned hard. Envoy Duran, of course. He is one of my father's old spies, sent to guide me, he said, but really, to control me. Ethan leaned forward. Why would he want the treaty to fail? 'Cause war means power, Zalari said. Peace gives freedom. To me, to others, but war. War keeps old men in control. They sat silently for a moment. Can we prove it? Ethan asked. If we try to expose him, he will destroy the evidence, Zalari said. We must act fast, and in public. Ethan grinned. A stage. With an audience, Zellari smiled back. Exactly. That afternoon, a meeting was held in the Unity Chamber, a large hall where Earth's and Varnak leaders gathered. The room had shining white floors, floating banners, and tall windows showing the sky. Zellari stood before the council, calm and graceful. Ethan stood beside her, trying not to sweat through his shirt. Envoy Darren sat quietly behind the Varnak. Diplomats, his red eyes watching. My people and I are committed to peace, Zellari said. But someone among us does not want that peace. She turned to Ethan, who nodded and stepped forward. We have proof, Ethan said, holding up the dataship, that someone from the Varnak side accessed the princess's voice logs and created the false message. He tapped the panel. The screen behind him flashed. The name Daron appeared in bold letters. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Envoy Daron stood up slowly. This is a lie. No, Zellari said firmly. It is the truth. You used my name to spread poison between us. You are young, Darren said coldly. You do not understand power. Maybe not, she replied. But I understand. Honesty. And I will not let you destroy this chance for peace. Darren's hand moved toward his robe. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn. Stand down, shouted Captain Rhine. Darren raised his hands. I surrender, he said. Now, as guards led him away, Zellari turned to the room. Let this be a sign, she said, that we choose trust, not lies. The room burst into applause. Ethan glanced at her. She looked like a queen. That evening, back in the garden, the stars above twinkled softly. You did it, Ethan said. You crushed him. We did it, Zellari replied. Ethan smiled. You were amazing up there. I was nervous. Could have fooled me. She turned to him. You were brave, Ethan Wade. Not just today, but always. He looked at her, heart beating fast. I'm just some guy with a datapad. No, she whispered. You're the one person who speaks to me like I'm not wearing a crown. They sat quietly, shoulders touching, then she said softly, Do you ever wonder what this would be like if we weren't from different worlds? All the time, he answered. She looked up at the stars. I wonder if they ever laugh at us, the stars. Why would they laugh? Because we dream of impossible things. Ethan took her hand gently. Then let them laugh, he said. We'll just laugh louder. Peace was finally within reach. The sabotage had been stopped. Envoy Duran, the one who leaked the false message, was under arrest and sent back to the Varnak High Court. Earth leaders now fully trusted Princess Zellari again, and both sides agreed to move forward with the treaty, but something still felt wrong. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling. 2 days after the arrest, he and Zellari sat in her garden again, watching the wind float through the trees. The mood was calm, but her eyes held a quiet storm. You don't seem happy, Ethan said. I'm waiting, she replied. For what? For the second blow. He frowned. You think there's more? Yes, she said firmly. Was just a tool? There's someone else. Someone who's still watching. Ethan leaned back. So what do? We finish the treaty. In public, with cameras. We give the enemy no space to strike in the shadows. You want to go live? Zellari nodded. The whole galaxy must see this treaty signed. No lies, no edits, no secrets. The treaty ceremony was set for 3 days later in the Celestial Hall, Earth's largest diplomatic center, at a high ceiling made of clear crystal, allowing guests to see stars above and the city lights below. It could hold thousands of people and would be broadcast to billions across both planets. Ethan walked with Zellari during the final practice run. She wore a long royal robe and her silver floating crown. But her steps were not slow and stiff-like. Before, she moved with purpose. With confidence. I don't want to mess this up, Ethan whispered. You won't, she said. You are the reason we are here. I just called you sweetie. I laughed. They both smiled. But later, that night, Ethan found a hidden message on his communicator, an anonymous threat. Stay away from the princess, a warning. He stared at the screen for a long time. He didn't tell Zalari the day of the treaty. Arrived at the celestial hall was filled with lights, flowers, banners, and rows of Earth and Varnak soldiers standing side by side. On one side of the hall sat Earth's president and top generals. On the other, the Varnak royal advisors and Chancellor Threx. The cameras floated in the air, capturing every moment. Zalari stood tall at the center of the hall. Ethan stood beside her, holding the ceremonial tablet. The treaty would be signed. On it, using biometric scans, both human and VARNOK, Captain Ryan whispered into Ethan's earpiece. Security is tight. No drones, no unknowns. We're clear. But Ethan still had a strange feeling in his gut. Then, as the speeches began, the large display behind the stage flickered. A man in a dark suit stood in the shadows of the control booth, his hands moving. Quickly, no one noticed him yet. Princess Zelaria Vernock, the Earth's president, said loudly, "We welcome you and your people. May this be the start of a new future." Everyone clapped. Zalari stepped forward. "I speak today not only as a princess," she said, "but as a believer, in peace, in trust, in laughter." She turned slightly, meeting Ethan's eyes. "We began this journey with a joke, a strange human word. But that word, sweetie, led to a moment of connection. That connection grew, and here we are." Ethan smiled. Zalari continued, "I stand here ready to sign this treaty, but let us be clear. Not because of power or duty, but because it is the right thing to do." More applause. But then the lights flickered again. The large screen behind them lit up, and a voice spoke. "This piece is a lie." Gasps filled the hall. On the screen, a deepfake video played Princess Zalari and Ethan speaking behind closed doors, mocking Earth, laughing coldly. But it was all fake. It had never happened. "That's not real," Ethan shouted. But the crowd was already panicking. Soldiers moved forward. The Varnock guards drew weapons. Earth officers followed. "Stand down," Ryan shouted. "Do not engage." Zalari stepped forward, raising her hand. "This is another lie," she said firmly. "Another trick." People hesitated. Ethan whispered, "We need to prove it's fake. Fast." Then Jotha, tech girl, rushed to the stage, carrying a device. "Trace the broadcast," she said, handing it to Ethan. "It came from the control room." Captain Ryan nodded. "Go, I'll handle things here." Ethan ran to the control room with Joe behind him. Inside, a man was still trying to upload more. "Video, stop right there," Ethan shouted. The man turned, face pale. "You don't understand." He shouted, "They'll never respect us. Earth will be slaves if this treaty passes." He reached for a weapon. Ethan tackled him before he could fire. The two crashed to the floor. Joe pressed a shock button, stunning the attacker. Ethan stood, breathing hard. "Well, that was fun." Joe smiled. "I stopped the broadcast. And I sent proof to the media that the video was fake." Ethan grinned. "You're a genius." Back in the hall, things were calming down. Zalari stood strong. "I will not let fear win," she said. She looked at Ethan as he returned, bruised and smiling. "Are we ready?" she asked. He nodded. "Let's finish this." She placed her hand on the treaty tablet. It glowed. Then Ethan did the same. A deep chime rang through the hall. Treaty confirmed. Alliance registered. The crowd erupted into applause. The cameras caught everything, and across both planets. Billions of people watched the moment when peace finally began. That night, the garden was quiet again. But this time, it was peaceful. Ethan sat beside Zalari, both of them looking at the stars. "Did you think we'd make it?" he asked. "No," she admitted. "But I hoped. I'm glad you laughed that day." She smiled. "I'm glad you called me sweetie," he chuckled. "I never thought it would lead to a galactic treaty." "Words are powerful," she said softly, "especially when they're honest." There was a long pause. Then Zalari said, "You know, I'll be leaving soon." "I figured," Ethan said, "but I want you to come with me as Earth's cultural ambassador. He looked at her in surprise. Me? Yes, she said. They trust you. I trust you. Ethan looked up at the stars. All right, he said. But only if my darling promises to show me where Varnock keeps the good snacks? Zalari laughed gently. Deal. 2 weeks had passed since the signing of the treaty. Earth and Varnock were no longer enemies. Trade had begun. Joint research teams were forming. News channels on both worlds showed photos of smiling diplomats, glowing cities, and most of all the famous moment when a human and an alien princess stood side by side, signing peace into history. People were still talking about it. But Ethan Wade was no longer just an assistant. He was now officially Earth's first cultural ambassador to Varn. He was also packing. Do I really need this many shirts? He asked, tossing another folded one into his case. Jo, sitting nearby, rolled her eyes. You're going to another planet, not a weekend road trip. Still feels crazy, Ethan muttered. 1 minute I'm holding coffee trays. The next, I'm sitting with alien royals. Jo smiled. You earned it. Just don't forget. Earth, when you get all fancy on Varnock? Ethan smiled back. I'll send you glowing tea and alien cookies. They hugged. Then he stepped out and headed to the shuttle platform. Princess Zellery stood waiting near the sleek silver Varnock shuttle. She wore a formal robe with blue and silver streaks, and her floating crown spun gently above her head. Her posture was calm royal, but her eyes lit up when she saw Ethan. You're late, she said. I had to choose the right jacket, he replied. Don't want to embarrass humanity. You already do that? She teased. They both laughed. Captain Ryan stood nearby, arms crossed. Everything cleared, Wade. You'll have full diplomatic status on Varnock. Thanks, Captain, he nodded. Don't screw this up, Ethan grinned. Wouldn't dream of it. Chancellor Threx stood behind the princess, looking as stiff as ever. You're lucky, human, he said quietly. The stars must like you. Ethan smiled. I like them back. Then he turned to Zellari. Ready? She looked at Earth one last time. Yes. They boarded the shuttle together. The trip to Varnock Prime took only a few hours in the royal ship. Varnock tech was faster than anything humans had. Ethan sat beside Zellari, watching the stars streak past like rivers of light. It doesn't feel real, he said softly. Doesn't it? She asked. He turned to her. No. It feels like a dream. Like I'll wake up in my apartment, and everything will be normal again. She smiled. Then I hope you never wake up. Varnock Prime was beautiful. Ethan had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The sky was deep purple, with 3 moons glowing above. The cities floated in the air, connected by glowing bridges. Trees sparkled with bioluminescent leaves, and the rivers hummed with soft music as they flowed. Crowds gathered to welcome the princess home they stared at. Ethan with wide eyes, some bowed, some whispered, but no one threw him off the floating platform. That was a good sign. Ethan was given a special residence inside the royal palace. It wasn't just a room, it was an entire suite, with soft walls that changed color depending on his mood. The bed floated slightly off the ground. The mirror could talk, though it had a bad sense of humor. The food was delivered by tiny silent drones. Still, what he liked most was the balcony. It overlooked the grand gardens of Varnock, filled with glowing flowers and trees that swayed even without wind. At night, the stars were brighter than he had ever seen, and every night, Princess Zellery came to sit beside him. They talked for hours about peace, about life, about their people, and sometimes about each other. One evening, during a celebration of the new alliance, Ethan stood beside Zellery in front of thousands of Varnock citizens. He wore a deep blue cloak with Earth's symbol on it. She wore silver and white, glowing softly in the night. People of Varnock, she said to the crowd, this is the human who called me sweetie. The crowd gasped, then laughed. And this, Ethan said, stepping up, is the alien who called me darling. More laughter. But those words meant more than jokes, Zellery said. They were the beginning of understanding. They showed us we're not so different, Ethan added. We laugh, we worry, we care. The crowd clapped after the speech. They stood alone under a glowing tree. You were nervous, Celery said. A little Ethan replied. Public speaking's not really my thing. You did well. They like you. They like you more. She smiled. I'm used to it. He looked at her. Do you miss Earth? Sometimes, she admitted. I miss the messy skies, the strange food, and the way your world feels. Unfinished. Ethan chuckled. That's a nice way to describe it. She paused, then said, I'm glad you came. So am I. Days turned into weeks. Ethan worked with schools, artists, and scientists sharing Earth culture and learning Varnak customs. He taught children how to high-five. He showed chefs how to make chocolate, cake. He introduced Varnak musicians to rock and roll. In return, he learned their art, their songs, their ways of showing respect, but no matter how busy he was, he always made time for Zelari. They weren't just colleagues now. They were something more. One night on the balcony, Zelari looked up at the stars and said quietly, They used to tell me I would marry someone powerful, someone chosen by the council, someone who fits the throne. Ethan stayed quiet. She turned to him, But I don't want someone who fits a crown. She took his hand. I want someone who fits me. Ethan's heart beat fast. Even if he's just a guy who called you sweetie? She smiled, especially if he did. They kissed. Slow. Gentle. True, the next day. The Varnak media was full of photos, the princess and the human ambassador. Standing together under the stars, some were shocked, some cheered, some worried. But no. One could deny what they saw. Hope. Months passed. The Earth Varnak alliance grew stronger. Ethan became a symbol of unitine because he was perfect, because he was real, honest, brave in his own way. And Zelari. She led her people into a new era. Together they showed the galaxy that peace didn't have to start with war. Sometimes it could begin with laughter and strange words like sweetie. One evening years later they sat again in the garden of the royal palace. Stars shone above, distant ships moved quietly through the sky. Zelari leaned on Ethan's shoulder. Do you remember the first thing you said to me? He smiled, something dumb, I'm sure. You called me sweetie, he laughed. You called me darling, they both smiled. She looked at him. Would you still say it now? He nodded. Every day, then say it. Good night, sweetie, she whispered back. Good night, darling. They both laughed. Softly, and the stars, high above, seemed to laugh with them.